Hi everyone, this is Deffinition here. If you've been following my playthrough of Arkham Asylum, you know that I kind of play through the game, talk about the influences that the creators had, and also recommend graphic novels that involve the characters in the cutscenes. I did do a playthrough of Arkham Asylum, so I just thought I'd jump onto Arkham City as there's a lot more in there to talk about and to just kind of have fun with it and show you how great I am on the game. So this game is obviously very Hugo Strange centric. What I love about the opening here is you've got Cain and Abel, the duality of man, which is sort of like it's based in brothers opposing each other. They have a similarity, but you know they end up killing one of them ends up murdering the other, which is I mean, Cain and Abel's a very famous story, and I love the way that the game ends on that image as well, but it's Batman carrying the Joker out of the cinema. Spoiler alert, yeah, the Joker dies. The game's only been out for about 8 years or something, yeah, so yeah, quit your whining. So you start off as Catwoman. I remember like being blown away at how the game began, because it was not only the character who wasn't in Arkham Asylum, it was just like a really different way to open the game, and I just thought, okay, this is doing something different. Oh, I can't believe I got to try to be fancy there. I also need to turn my I'm gonna go to the game settings right now and turn the invert camera on, because I'm one of them. Bloody hell, I went and crashed the game. I don't know what the hell's happened. Don't ever look at the game controls on this, because you'll crap yourself. So it begins with Catwoman breaking into Two-Face's vault. As you can see, vote Den. That obviously calls back to when he was a DA. It's very similar to the posters that are in The Dark Knight, where it says "I believe in Harvey Dent," which is actually taken from The Long Halloween. A lot of people throughout the book say that they believe in Harvey Dent, and The Long Halloween deals with Harvey Dent's transition from the good man into Two-Face. It's a brilliant book, and I actually recommend picking that up straight away. And I can remember I actually like spoilt the game for myself when this first happened, because it got released in the UK a couple of days after it had been out in America, and I just was watching playthroughs of it because I just needed to see how it opened. And when it opened on Bruce Wayne, I was like, wow, this is crazy. So that's Vicky Vale. Obviously she was made famous by the Batman 1989 movie, but she was in the comics for quite a lot. In the recent Telltale game, they've made her Lady Arkham, which I just thought was a terrible twist. Like, I never got how she was so good at fighting when she'd basically just lived in Gotham her whole life, yet she could go toe to toe with Batman, who's been trained by the best martial artists in the world. It's great how this game sort of got a Escape from New York vibe to it. Like, it's basically a prison city, and the public are just like, instead of, you know, prisons, they're meant to rehabilitate people, but this are just like, yeah, lock them behind a wall, don't ever let them come back, because that's how bad crime has got in Gotham City.
It's out of control. Shut it down. By the end of tonight, I will be a hero, just like you.
And that is, of course, Hugo Strange talking. My favourite Hugo Strange story is probably Batman and the Monster Men. It takes place very early on in Batman's mythology. I think chronologically it's like the third book. It goes Batman Year One, Batman Shaman, and then Batman and the Monster Men. And it sort of deals with Hugo Strange basically building these mutants, but also having to fight off the mobsters. It was a time before the supervillains had really taken over Gotham, and there's a lot of mobsters in it. I can see Hugo's big face here. It is a really good way to open the game. Like, it sort of calls back to Half-Life 2 to me, with the big face in your grill. You can see all the details in it, his eyebrows, and then it pulls out and you realise you're trapped. And I love how they open straight away and say that Hugo Strange knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, because from there you're just like, oh crap. And then you're just in this room, you start rocking, and it just it opens so well. Like, even down to this, you just see how much of a G Batman is, for the fact that he's lying down on the floor in handcuffs and he still manages to beat the crap out of someone, steal a radio, and you know that in any situation, all the training that he's had from people like Henry Ducard, he could just easily get out of this situation, but he wants to assess it first, see what's happening. He doesn't want to give it away. We've got Black Mask over here. He obviously plays a big part of Arkham Origins, and it is kind of sad to see him just basically getting his ass kicked here. You've also got Deadshot in this line as well. So this guy in front of you here, I don't know who the hell that lad is. I think he's named Barry Buluva. That's terrible. Bang. Deadshot right there, who has also purposely got captured to sneak in. So one thing that they don't really confirm is the fact that Bruce Wayne purposely got captured to get thrown in here to see exactly what was going on. If you read the prequel comics to Arkham City, you know that he kind of broke in at certain points to see exactly what was going on. Personally, I didn't really like the comics, but yeah, they do an alright job of filming things beforehand. There's the inmate that you see at the end, when you're climbing up to Wonder Tower. Hugo Strange has an inmate hostage, and that's him there. That's Jack Ryder from the radio show. Played an Easter egg part in Arkham Asylum. On the top of the roof there you can see Azrael from the Nightfall story, John Paul Valley, who becomes Batman, of course, when Bruce gets his back broken by Bane. And it's great how just there's so many Easter eggs like straight away. And even though he's in the handcuffs, he's just beating the crap out of everyone. So, and you got a guy sneaking up behind you. There's the Penguin. If you want a really good Penguin story, I highly recommend picking up Penguin: Pride and Prejudice. It's set in the sort of New 52 universe, but it tells a lot of Penguin's backstory and how he's a mobster who will just murder people's families. Basically, he had loads of brothers that picked on him as a child, and he just ended up like offing them in ways that, you know, you couldn't say, oh yeah, that kid killed him. They all look like accidents. And it's a really good book. And through the story, Penguin's mother dies, and people move in her body out, insult her, and you know, they find out that he just basically gets the guy in a room who insulted his mother, and he's like, right, your son, I made it look like an accident when he choked on his food at school. Your wife, she's just died in a car crash, head-on collision. And it's just like, it shows how sadistic Penguin is and how fearful that the city are of him, because he is just that sort of sick man who'll go basically to any extreme to make sure he gets revenge. He doesn't have a compassionate side. I think, oh, that guy was just having a joke. It's very much, I will kill everyone that you've ever known and ever loved, and just leave you a complete shell of a man. I'll not murder you. So it's really good. And you see Penguin here, I punch your ass.
I need to get higher.
I mean, it's great how the game just throws you straight in at the deep end, and it's like, yeah, this place has went to crap. It's not well run or anything. You know, this is sort of how a restaurant on Ramsey Kitchen Nightmares is run. It's just falling apart, and you've got to really just be immersed in it to see how bad everything's going. And I love how, you know, you can see Bruce Wayne at the start at the press conference, being, you know, he's like blah 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 blah.
Not exactly.
Although I did get some
But as soon as he gets inside Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, the persona just completely drops, and it's like, right, they know I'm Batman. I'm gonna get on with it. I'm not gonna hide it from anyone.
Right on time.
And we can see Gotham City in the background there. I remember looking out just thinking, wow, this looks amazing. There's Wayne Enterprises, and here's your Batsuit. You know, Batman doesn't need to wear the Batsuit under his shirt and then rip it off to get changed. He has a jet that'll just drop one off for him. It's very cool. And this is where the game really begins for me. Just walks out on the city, and you know it's gonna, you know, I think you knew from this point, yeah, this is gonna be really good.
Key from a tiger jar. I'm going to hack into their communications.
I mean, this is also before open world games got massively popular. Like, you can't pick a game up off the shelf without it probably being an open world game. And I think Arkham City is really responsible for just making open world games so popular. And I remember, you know, you went from the asylum to this, and it was just mind-blowing how fuller and richer the world felt. I mean, after you complete the game, there's still so much on this that you can do, whereas the asylum just, it felt kind of bare.
No, it does not. Mr. Dent's predilection for all things binary may not bode well.
And Two-Faces, of course, captured Catwoman. If you read the comics, then you know there's a lot of beef between the two. Like, they absolutely hate each other in the comics. And it's good to see them immediately dive into that. Like, these are two characters as well that weren't in Arkham Asylum. So I open on them. It's just a whole new cast of characters. You know, you're not even introduced to the Joker yet. And it's good to kind of wonder, ooh, you know, is he out there somewhere? And when he does reveal himself, it's very well thought out. You've also got new moves like the power beatdown, which I remember the first time I did it, I was just like, yes! You're just kicking the crap out of someone. I've just popped down here to rescue Jack Ryder. Come on then, lad, let's go. See Jack Ryder when you got the club over your head. Yeah. This is what happened to him. It's good because you don't even have to rescue the lad. I just always feel bad leaving him there when Bruce said he would protect him. And you got Wonder Tower there. Obviously that's quite a big part of the comics now. Whenever I see like a Gotham skyline drawn in the comics, it's Wonder Tower's always knocking about there somewhere. I think it makes its biggest appearance in City of Owls, and it's part of the New 52 where Bruce Wayne goes for a meeting with Lincoln Marsh, who's running for mayor, and Bruce gets attacked by a member of the Court of Owls, a Talon soldier, and he gets thrown out of it, and he says there was a hidden 13th gargoyle halfway down that he manages to grab onto and save his life. Lincoln Marsh, controversially, was introduced into the New 52 as sort of the new mayor of Gotham, and throughout the Court of Owls story it turns out that he's actually meant to be Bruce Wayne's half-brother. Apparently his mother, before Bruce was born, had a child that they had to send to an orphanage because he had learning I don't know. Anyway, it turns out that he's meant to be Bruce Wayne's brother. They do leave it where, you know, purists like me can be like, no, he's definitely not his brother because Bruce Wayne does not have a brother. But yeah, it's heavily, you know, implied that he is. a lot of things Scott Snyder did, like the changes he made, I found quite controversial. I think he is one of the best Batman writers of all time. He's had so many good stories, but you know, things like Lincoln Marsh. He also there's a Batman animated series episode called Heart of Ice, which is basically Mr. Freeze's origin story, and it won an Emmy. Like a cartoon won an Emmy off that episode, and Scott Snyder just, you know, took it upon himself to change it all. The episode's about Mr. Freeze's origin and, you know, losing his wife, freezing her and doing whatever it takes to find a cure for the disease that she's got. And Scott Snyder's New 52 run is just like, no, he just made that all up in his head. He was a stalker. He had a girl that he liked who was cryogenically frozen, and he just made up this story that it was his wife, which I was a bit and they've kind of I know exactly how DC felt on it, because they retconned a lot of it. Two-Face there with his famous coin, voiced by Troy Baker, who would go on to voice the Joker in Batman Arkham Origins, and would also voice Batman in the Telltale series. So Troy Baker, man, he gets about. He's very good.
The gun is the key. Without him, the rest of the room won't be a problem.
Welcome, people of Arkham City.
I love how you can kind of look about here and see Two-Face's courtroom. It's really nice on one side. You've got lovely marble floor, and on the other one, it's just, the other side is completely burnt. It sort of speaks to the dichotomy of Two-Face, and really highlights just how much of a dual persona he has. Of course, Two-Face really is like a good signifier of Batman as well. Like, there's these two personalities warring within of Batman and Bruce Wayne, and you know, sometimes one personality wins out, sometimes the other one does, and it's just great to see like Batman's villains represent the dichotomy that he himself faces.
Objection.
Oh.
Overruled. Heads or tails, kitty cat.
Which one lets me out of
And the guy loves flipping his coin, and I love when Batman uses that to his
Time to die.
I vote for
advantage.
stay of execution.
And basically there's a Batman episode where he just lets him chase after the coin because he knows he's obsessed with it, and in Batman Forever he goes to flip his coin, and Batman's actually brought along loads of silver coins that whilst he flips it, he just throws them in the air. Two-Face tries to catch them all and falls to his death. Ha ha ha! Got you, sucker.
How's it hanging, Harv?
That's a dick joke. So if you want a good Catwoman story, I recommend picking up Catwoman When in Rome. It sort of follows the aesthetic of Batman Along Halloween and acts as a sort of go-between between that book and Batman Dark Victory. It tells sort of Catwoman basically looking for her father and her mother. She has a sneaking suspicion that her dad's Carmine Falcone, who's the infamous Gotham mob boss, is traveling to Rome to basically confirm this. She doesn't get the answers, but she pretty strongly suspects that it is. It is heavily implied that it is. She's also having quite a good resurgence in the Tom King Rebirth stories. I never know whether it's Tom King or Tom Kane. Anyway, where basically Batman has proposed to her, they're in love with each other. She's basically a fugitive at the moment, but Batman knows she's innocent, and it's sort of acting like against Gotham City's interests and letting her loose on the streets. So there's always been kind of a weird balancing act between justice and also fancying Catwoman that Batman has. Oh, and I remember seeing this section in the E3 demo and just being like, wow, this is like crazy detective stuff. You can detect the bullet and see where it entered the room and then use that to draw a line to where the shot came from. And just, I remember watching that for the first time and thinking that is absolutely crazy. Like, this is next level detective work. And you never really got anything like that in Arkham Asylum. It was always kind of scanning an item, seeing what signal it gave off, and then following the signal. Whereas this was just like, yeah, crazy. Protocol 10 there, which is basically the plan that Hugo Strange has devised to make himself be the hero of Gotham and cleanse all of the criminals. So Hugo Strange begins arming the convicts and giving them access to weapons, and they sort of overrun the asylum. And he goes to a committee and says, look, I've failed at containing them. They've all got weapons and they're gonna soon escape and run riot on Gotham City. Obviously the council are disappointed, but they're like, yeah, you've got to kill them now, which allows in turn Hugo Strange to murder all of them, which is sort of Ra's al Ghul. Oh, they call him Raz and some stuff, Ra's in others, you know what I mean. Gets confusing. Anyway, Ra's al Ghul is the grand overseer of it all, and obviously his plan in life is to wipe criminals out. So it's a really well thought out plot, written by Paul Dini, who most famously known for writing episodes of Batman the Animated Series, which these games really do have a sort of feeling that they're an extension of Batman the Animated Series. So it's good that they kept the writers. So here we are entering the church, which is an introduction of another very famous, very popular Batman villain. Let's go see the lass. I love how you can counter this, but if you just leave it, she just kicks you in the face. And this is Harley Quinn with a new designed look, which sort of fits in more with the new 52 aesthetic. I've recently been reading through the Suicide Squad New 52 run, and I'm so mad at myself for leaving it this long before I read them. Like, you can see why they got given a movie before Wonder Woman off reading the New 52 run, because it's absolutely brilliant. Like, it's one of the best comic runs that I've read in a while. It's just great how Machiavellian every member of the crew is, and it honestly, it pulls the rug out from under you so many times that you'll just be mind blown at how good it is. It opens basically on the entire league getting tortured, and you're just thinking, all right, you know, some of them crack, they get taken off and get murdered, and the ones they're just like, who don't break, and they're just like, you know what, I'm not gonna talk, just kill me. They get taken out, get murdered, and it's like, yeah, it was just a test. Now we're shipping you off to the real test, because we realised that you can live in the Suicide Squad and put your life before national security and other things that, you know, are quite questionable. So anyway, they get sent their first mission. There's been a virus unleashed in a football stadium, so they get shipped off out there, and they just get told, look, yeah, this is like a zombie-like virus that has the potential to destroy the world and turn everyone into zombies. So just go there and just murder everyone. And of course everyone in there isn't infected. There's people who have survived the zombie onslaught, and they go in, and some guy runs over to them and is just like, "Oh my God, the Justice League, you're here to save us," and they're like, "Yeah, we're not the Justice League, mate. You're dead." So it's just so well done. Like it's very, you know, non-commercial comic booky, and I just was absolutely mind blown with it. The entire book's like that, and you know, as they're leaving the stadium, obviously the government don't want the general public to think that there's some virus going about that can turn people insane and into zombies. So as they're leaving, one of the heroes is just like, "Oh, I bet they blame this on some super villain or something," and Deadshot's like, "Yeah, you know what, you're completely right," and just shoots the guy and says, "Right, you're getting the blame for this." And it's like the entire run is just things like that where you just think, oh, I can't believe how like despicable these people are, but I absolutely loved it. It's not, you know, it's not, the hero doesn't always save the day, and even if they do, it tends to be in a horrific way that, you know, is very questionable. There's no black and whites in the Suicide Squad New 52 run. It's all sort of shades of grey, and yeah, definitely pick that up. Another Suicide Squad comic that's just came out is Suicide Squad vs Justice League, in which, you know, the title gives away exactly what's gonna happen, and it is great to just see these two popular teams facing off against each other. And I just recommend you pick it up. Like, there were parts of the Suicide Squad movie that were enjoyable, but you know, overall it was a bit of a mess, and I think you have to really be a hardcore comic book fan to sort of see the merit in it. But these graphic novels just absolutely knock it out the park. Like, I honestly was just mind blown as to how good it was. So definitely pick them up. You know, they tie in really well with aspects of the New 52, like Batman shows up. They go to Metropolis at one point. They're looking, you know, they've got to deal with the threat, but they're also like, oh crap, Superman could end up being about here. And it's just brilliant. Suicide Squad vs Justice League as well. It's really is something special to see these two teams face off against each other, and the winner of it, you know, it's the way the Suicide Squad is. They're not by, you know, it's not by the numbers ever. So you might be surprised at who wins the fights and, you know, what the eventual outcome is. It's just so well put together. I kind of want to do the AR training, but I think I'm going to do it off video, because it's basically just to get the grapnel boost, isn't it? And you know, you do need that at traverse about this game. So I'll talk about Hugo Strange a bit more, because I've kind of knocked him on the head. So there's a book called Batman Prey, which is basically, it takes place after the Monster Men. Hugo Strange has realized that everyone, well, all the law enforcement and Batman know that he's a villain, and he makes experiments on basically normal people that turn them into monsters, which is the title of the Monster Men. That's where that comes from. So the lad just goes on TV and he starts saying how Batman's like psychologically messed up, and for anyone to even want to like become a vigilante that stresses about, you have to have serious psychological problems. So obviously now, if Batman takes him down after he's publicly slammed him, it's gonna look like, oh, Hugo Strange was right, he is a complete psychopath, and we need to do something about this Batman. So Batman can't really touch the guy, and it's sort of basically the entire book revolves around Hugo Strange discovering that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he also gets a police officer, and like using his psychological techniques sort of transforms him into a vigilante, and he and Batman have to face off. And it's sort of this whole what the book does great is it has this new vigilante say that Batman's wrong and that he needs to stop him, but in doing so he must become a vigilante to stop him, and it's sort of, the entire book's about becoming a monster in order to stop a monster, and it's really well done. It definitely is one of the best Hugo Strange stories. Another one that's not so good, but that often gets labelled as that, like I've seen it in several IGN top 10, top 25 lists, whatever, it's in them lists, is Batman Strange Apparitions, which basically it starts off really well. It starts off like The Dark Knight, where the mobsters are saying Batman's a real problem in this city, we'll have to kill the guy. Hugo Strange discovers is that Bruce Wayne's Batman, and he wants to sell the secret to the highest bidder, and just as it's getting interesting, the mobsters show up and they're like, right, well, we want to know who he is, if you don't do it, we're going to kill you. And it just sort of diverts too much away from the potential that it has to really deliver for me. And it gets to a point where Hugo Strange gets murdered and his ghost appears throughout the book to scare a mobster. They like the Rupert Thorne, who's the man who killed him. If you remember, Rupert Thorne, who was also heavily in the animated series as sort of the Gotham mobster. And yeah, it just doesn't... It was made in 1977, I think, and yeah, it just didn't have... To me, it didn't like live up to the hype. It was really dated, and I would just recommend picking up either Batman and the Monster Men, although good luck picking that up because it's about 40 quid at the moment, because it's currently out of print, or pick up Batman Prey. Batman Prey also, you know, if you're lucky, you can pick it up as a double pack with Batman Terror in the back, which is when the Scarecrow teams up with Hugo Strange, and it's sort of just how stupid they both are sort of leads to their downfall, because obviously they're both insane, and see them kind of try and deal with each other and take down Batman when they end up harming each other more than they help each other. It's great. So I'll give you two great books there. I can't remember, I'm so distracted by this game, I can't remember if I give you 2 or 3, but I definitely recommend picking those up if you want a good Hugo Strange story. I haven't read the recent Monster Men reboot as part of Rebirth, so I don't really know if it is good. I've heard it's alright, so I do need to check that out, but I can't really recommend it. But Hugo Strange, I mean, if you do like the psychological side of Batman, sort of answering the question why he puts on the cape and cowl, what sort of led to this. Any story with Hugo Strange in is really going to deliver on that. It's very rare that you get a Batman story featuring Hugo Strange that's massively action focused. They all tend to be sort of, you know, psychological books that really ask the deep questions of why the hell does Batman do what he does. So I 100% recommend picking up Batman and the Monster Men and Batman Prey, and you know what, maybe give the new Rebirth story a chance, because I have heard it's good, but if it's not yet, I'm not gonna, oh bloody hell. Anyway, this is probably the perfect time to send off and say goodbye. So thanks very much for taking the time to check out my playthrough. I hope you've learned a bit more about Batman than you didn't know before. If you did know loads, I hope it's just been a nice little nostalgic trip down memory lane. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, like it, and check out my comic book, movie, TV and game reviews at deffinition.co.uk. Cheers.